What's going on, guys? We're on the way right now to meet up with John Abraham, who's a startup founder. He started and sold a company a few years back, and he's back in the game founding another tech startup right now. So we're gonna ask him some questions on how he was able to start, grow, and eventually sell his businesses and what he implemented to make them successful.
Hey, James.
What's going on, John?
Hey.
How you doing?
Good to see you. Come on in. Hey.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. We launched our application in 2014 and had an exit in 2018. And now I'm working on a new startup called Haymaker.
What is the most efficient way to go about raising capital to fund people's ideas and businesses? As a business owner, what's the number one thing that you took from starting and selling that first company to your second company now?
Oh gosh.
What industry did you ultimately pursue a career in?
I've since retired. I was in tech sales for about 15, 20 years.
What was the most amount of money that you ever made in a single year?
It's a lot of money because I got stock options. It was in the multi-million dollars of earnings in a single year because I cashed out a whole bunch of stock.
Would you say 8 figures? Or
yeah, 8 figures.
8 figures.
Yeah.
What does it take to go from a 7 to 8 figure net worth in today's world?
Well, I think if you really want to make that kind of money, you got to find a company that is willing to invest in you, or you got to go build your own business. So investing in you would be giving you ownership in the company so that you're going out there and you're selling hard, but you're selling for the long term. Or you got to find your own business. You go learn early and take your learnings and go do a business of your own from what you've learned. That's something, what I know now, I would have spent more time thinking about. How do I take all my knowledge and instead of doing it for someone else, do it for myself, but only after you've built that base of knowledge. Be confident and be fearless. I mean, you need to go for it.
Hey, sir. If you had to start over and go back when you were first starting out, what advice would you tell you to give yourself?
Thank you anyway.
No worries, sir. Excuse me, sir. Quick question for you. If you were to start from zero and go back to when you were first starting out in the real world, what's the best advice that you would tell yourself?
You guys were here last time.
Yes, sir.
So as you can see, rejection is part of the process. We get a lot of funny rejections, a lot of stuff you don't even see behind the scenes. I gotta ask you, what's the worst rejection you've ever had?
Man, the worst rejection, there's been a lot of them. I think one of them was when we were in San Antonio. We were kind of at like a shopping center, went up to a gentleman, asked him, hey, could we do a quick interview with you? And he just kind of gave me the most staunch hand in the face. He's like, get that fucking camera out of my face.
Yeah.
So it happens, man. It's gonna happen.
The worst ones are, they don't even say anything, they just put the hand up and you just know, just keep it moving.
Hey, but at the end of the day, as we always know, every no is closer to a yes, so we just keep going. What industry did you ultimately pursue a career in?
I consult with governments around the country, with a lot of cities, mostly local governments, on specific issues that governments are facing these days.
And what has been the most amount of money that you ever made in a single year?
I worked in government, so I never made a whole lot of money, but being out on my own now, probably close to $500,000 a year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What would you say is the number one skill that's needed to be successful in the business world?
I think to become truly successful, I think you have to have that magic connection between assertiveness, truly trying to assert yourself, to get out of your comfort zone, to try things that you haven't tried before. It's not just about diligence and focus, it's really just about trying new things. And at the same time, professionalism, follow through, of viewing those relationships truly as relationships and not networking. It's not a transactional life, it's building relationships that you're going to grow throughout the rest of your life. I surround myself with large networks of people, and I pull them all the time about the things I'm doing. I'm talking to people about what I'm up to, and making sure you have good people who are supporting you, who are kind, and who are charitable. That's important.
So we don't typically run into a lot of government employees down here in Austin, but it's really interesting his story, how he worked for the government, became a business consultant, now he's got his own business, but loved his advice, and let's go catch some more. What was the most amount of money you ever made in a single year?
1.8.
What industry did you pursue a career in?
I build jail cells.
What is the blueprint that it takes to become a millionaire in today's world?
I always was interested in a niche industry, which I am certainly in, because in New England, there's nobody else that does what I do. So find a niche, work hard, get the right people. I don't see how you could not be successful. When you see an opportunity, take advantage of it. If it's not working out, get out fast, or pursue it right to the end. And I've done that multiple times, and it's worked out pretty well. And I went in one direction, I added a component to my company, it didn't work out, cut ties, gone. You lose a little money, but in the long run, you lose a lot less than if you stay with it.
A few weeks ago, we ran into and met a startup founder out here in Austin, Texas, who sold a company a few years ago and is now in the process of building another tech startup. Now, the story of how we actually ran into him was kind of funny.
Yeah, so we're at a Mexican restaurant called Povos, and we're sitting next to this two people. It's John and this other lady, and we overhear them talking about business. So we're like, hey, James, I think these guys are business owners. Let's just go ask them what they do and kind of like who they are. And so we go ahead, we ask them who they are.
And we found out that this guy, John Abraham, he's actually a startup founder in Austin, Texas, who previously sold a company, is in the process of, building a new company, and he's in the process of scaling and growing it right now. And so we said, hey, this is what we do. We connect with, we interview, we tell stories from big business owners and try to get their advice on how they became successful to help the younger generation and people that are out in the real world really become successful like them. So, we actually just talked to him recently, and he said that, hey, let's film some more content. I really want to give you guys some game on how you can really start, scale, grow a business to eventually be sold. So we're gonna go talk to John Abraham now on how he became successful.
Hey, James.
What's going on, John? How you doing?
Good. Good to see you. Come on in. Hey.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
What is your story, as a startup founder, an entrepreneur, and what all are you up to right now?
I used to bartend in college, and a lot of folks would come in from Dell and from Applied Materials and Intel, and I knew I wanted in on that, on the tech space. And so I finally begged one of them into giving me a chance at sales, and that's how I started my sales career in tech. We launched our application in 2014 and had an exit in 2018. And now I'm working on a new startup called Haymaker, which is like Airbnb. It's a marketplace, but except it's for on-demand and temporary office space.
A lot of people have a lot of great ideas. What's the first step in order to turn that idea to actual action and execute on that?
Well, before you create anything, you need to understand the viability of the product and the total addressable market. So before you build anything, I would start with interviewing as many potential clients as you can. If you've recognized a need in some sort of industry or some space, you want to start with talking to the decision makers in that space. What are your challenges? What are you struggling with? And the more interviews, the better. And then go back to them and say, if we can solve this problem for you, what would that mean for your company? You're not quite asking for a sale yet, but you're just trying to get them to help you understand what would that mean for them. And then if you can get somebody to commit to piloting that project early on, then you can go and build your MVP, your minimally viable product. That is the best approach.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to ask you, so you have that idea, you start to kind of get a team around it, you start to invest some money in it. At what point do you know that you have a good idea and that you should keep investing in it?
You don't until you figure out a way to scale it. It could solve a really substantial problem, but until you figure out how to get customers, you don't really have a great idea.
So what is your best piece of advice for entrepreneurs that might be struggling with perfectionism? They're constantly in analysis paralysis, working on their product, and they're not sending it out into the market. What would be your piece of advice for those entrepreneurs?
I've maybe been guilty of this myself, but I think perfectionism is really a form of insecurity. So you don't want anybody calling the baby ugly, so you're never going to show anybody the baby. That's not a place where you can really get any constructive feedback and course correct if you need to. If you have a differentiator, though, that you can highlight and then let your client buy in on helping you shape the product in a way that's maybe a better fit for them, now they're bought in. So it's a great opportunity for you to just show them something. You know it's not perfect. You even admit it's not perfect. What can we do to make this perfect for you?
It's very common to face a lot of failure on your journey as an entrepreneur. But what is your advice to someone who is facing that failure maybe frequently as an entrepreneur, and how can you really overcome that adversity and those setbacks?
Well, adversity and setbacks are part of the journey, and the journey is really what you should be in it for if you decide to become an entrepreneur. It's not the destination. I know we celebrate the money that comes with an exit or an IPO, but the thing that really changes you and the thing that will help your mindset through this journey is if you can realize that those are the things that will shape you into a really successful person who can overcome obstacles down the road, who can meet challenges head on, who can help other people who are going through those challenges. That's really the point of the entire journey.
So one of the biggest struggles that business owners face is raising capital to fund their great ideas that they may have. What is the most efficient way to go about raising capital to fund people's ideas and businesses?
But if you're just getting started, it is a lot cheaper now to build a product and test your product. Once you get that step done, hopefully you're generating some revenue to where you can keep investing back into the business, build it out broader and broader, build traction, then take it out for investment. There is no magic number that you need to get to, but you just need to show that there's potential, there's repeatable customer acquisition, you have a plan for that, and ideally you're moving up with your revenue and your MRR every month.
What is the number one important thing that you can implement to scale your business from 6 to 7 figures, from 7 to 8, and maybe eventually 8 to 9 figures?
The rule that I use is, one, if I could outsource this for less than my hourly rate, then I'm gonna outsource. If it means bringing on someone permanent, that's something that you'll just have to budget for and build your forecasts on and continue to bring people on.
Or what do you think is the absolute best way to go about marketing your product or service?
If you're an enterprise play and you have enterprise clients, there's one strategy there. Email is actually still pretty prolific there, but it's going to be a mix, a mix of social media. It's going to be a mix of direct outreach through email. It might even be cold calling if you're doing enterprise stuff. If you're doing more of a consumer play, social media plays a pretty critical role there.
You built and sold a company in 2018. What does that process look like of selling a company, and how can you set up your company to be sold one day?
Best way to set up your company to be sold is just to keep focusing on the bottom line. Keep building revenue, keep moving the needle, and if you keep doing it and it's efficient, people will notice. Institutional investors will notice. They probably want to, help you along and help promote the company in the form of an investment, or an acquisition might take place, and because they want to be part of that, or they want to roll your products into their services and offerings, and that happens every day.
One of the things you mentioned is having that circle around you, that board of advisors. How important do you think it is to have a mentor and just that board of advisors around you to give you that proper advice and guide you to where you really need to go?
There's typically not one person that you go to for everything. You might have that one person that you go to keep you motivated, like a business coach or some sort of motivational coach or something like that. But there's a lot of nuance to running a business, and you're not going to be an expert at everything. So if possible, go out and try to find people who are experts in those categories. I still have sales mentors. I can't, you forget, you get rusty sometimes. And so you gotta go out and go back to your mentors, and they'll steer you down the right ship.
So the company you're currently building right now is called Haymaker. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what you're up to as the owner of it?
Yeah. Haymaker is an online marketplace similar to Airbnb, but we specialize in temporary office and meeting spaces. This is actually one of our Haymaker spaces here. It's ideal for companies with distributed employees or that don't have a ton of office space, and they need to supplement that office space. So we have luxury homes like this one, we have flex spaces, studios, traditional commercial real estate. They're all available by the hour or by the day.
What made you come up with this idea?
Oh gosh, during the pandemic, actually pre-pandemic, my co-founder came up with the idea of launching more of an online marketplace for co-working. But then when the pandemic hit, we saw the number of people moving around, and that really affirmed that we were headed down the right path. Pivoted a little bit from just co-working into meeting spaces, since so many companies had dropped their real estate footprints or could just no longer justify carrying as much space as they had.
John, thank you so much for having us out to your spot. We really enjoyed getting to talk to you today. Where can everybody find you and find out more about your company?
Yeah, you can come to haymakerspace.com, check it out, look at our listings there. You can book directly through our app as well, which you can link to from the website. I'm also on LinkedIn, John Abraham.
And if you guys want to learn more about how you can start and grow your first business, click this link right here.